Hello and welcome to the Community Kitchen. My name's Charlotte and I am here to show you how to make your Spanish omelette that you would have received in your recipe kit. So the Spanish omelette is a really healthy dish made with eggs, and we're going to cook some vegetables in a pan. We're going to combine that with some eggs, and then we're going to cook this big luscious omelette in our pan, and I'm going to show you how to get the top nice and cooked too. You might also hear this called a frittata. So frittata, Spanish omelette, that's what we're making. So the first thing we're going to need to do is prepare our onion. So if anyone hasn't seen the video before of how we prepare an onion, I'm going to show you how to do it now. So you can just remove any loose bits of skin there like I just did. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop off this stalk. So we're going to use our claw hold, tuck that thumb behind your fingers and hold your onion in place and chop off the stalk of your onion. And the next thing we're going to do is use our bridge to chop the onion in half. So the bridge is your forefinger and thumb made into a bridge. Hold whatever it is you're chopping, run the knife through and chop it. So your fingers and thumb create the bridge. So I've chopped my onion in half, leaving that root intact. The next thing I'm going to do is take off the skin. I'm going to peel my onion. If you haven't already cooked your potatoes as well, now would be a good time to do it. I've got my pre-cooked potatoes here. I'll talk to you a little bit more about those later, but that is actually the first thing you need to do is cook the potatoes. So I peeled my onion and now I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to dice it. So I'm going to do some cuts vertically through the onion, not taking it all the way through the end. And I'm going to fan it out here. You can see that it's intact still, but I've sliced it. I'm going to turn it round this way and take my knife through it again to create a crisscross effect. You can also do slices for this Spanish omelette. It works quite nicely. Remembering to use your bridge and your claw to protect your fingers. So once more, we're going to go do vertical cuts through the onion, not taking it all the way to the end, so it stays in one piece. Flip it round and I'm going to cut horizontally through the onion to create my dice. I'm just cutting around the root. So I've got my pan here. I've got a medium-sized frying pan and I'm going to get it over a medium heat, and I'm going to soften my onions over a medium heat. So I'm going to add my oil into the pan. I've got some olive oil here. You could use veg oil. You could also use a little bit of margarine or butter for that. And I'm just going to swish my oil around the pan. I'm going to swish my oil around the pan. And once I can feel that's getting nice and warm, I'm going to put my oil in, my onion in. And start to soften it. So I'm going to cook these onions for about 8 minutes until they're nice and soft. And whilst my onions cook, I'm going to talk to you about some of the other ingredients. So I've got here my cooked potatoes. So if you've already cooked your potatoes, now would be a good opportunity to, so just checking my pan is on. There we go, sorry, I was having pan issues there. Right, you can chop up your cooked potatoes, which you've got here, and put them to one side, and we're going to start talking about the other vegetables we've got. So you should have a pepper in your bag. I'm going to show you how to prep that pepper. What we're going to do is we're going to hold the pepper upright on your board, and you're going to use your knife to chop around the stalk. So you can hold the stalk in place at the top, and I'm going to chop around the stalk. Okay. The idea being that I just get left with that centre part with the seeds and a bit of pith. Don't forget to stir your onions. And I'm just going to take out any extra bits of seeds. You can prepare all this before you start cooking. If you prefer to have it all ready, you can chop up your onion, chop up your peppers, have it all ready to go before you start. Okay, and then I'm just going to slice up my pepper. We want it to slice fairly thinly because we want it to cook nice and quickly in the pan before the eggs go in. Remember to use your claw to keep that thumb tucked behind. You can use any type of veg you like for this really, as long as it hasn't got too high a water content. So anything like tomato or cucumber probably wouldn't be suitable for this. But you can use pretty much any other veg. If you're using something hard like carrots, it's best to pre-cook it first. Otherwise you might end up with crunchy carrot. If you like that, that's fine, go for it. But it might be better to just, you could use leftover roasted carrots from a roast dinner maybe. In your bag, I think you're going to have a courgette, but today I'm going to use a broccoli stalk that I had left. And actually a broccoli stalk makes a really great filling for a Spanish omelette. It's really tasty and it's a really good way to use up any leftover bits of veg like this rather than them going in the bin. So I'm just going to chop off the very, very hard bottom bit. And any little stalky bits sticking out. Keep stirring my onions. And I'm just going to chop off the tough outer skin. If you're using a courgette, you chop off the top and the bottom, and then you can slice it into thin slices. You might only need half a courgette if it's quite big. You can keep the other half in your fridge and use it for roasted vegetables and tomato sauce. So I'm just going to use my bridge to chop my broccoli in half. Keep an eye on those onions. And I'm just going to chop this into little pieces to go in my Spanish omelette. If you're using a broccoli stalk, best to go quite thin so that it doesn't end up really, really crunchy in your omelette. And you're going to pop your veggies in. And those are going to get cooked off for a few minutes. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start preparing our eggs. So I've got 4 large eggs here. I'm going to break them into my bowl. And a really good tip with egg, if you get a little bit of shell in your bowl from when you cracked your egg, you can use the half of a shell to scoop it out, and it makes it much easier than trying to fish it out with fingers or with a spoon. And I'm going to add a splash of milk into there, but you could use a splash of water if you haven't got any milk or if you don't fancy it. And also, if you wanted to, you could put some grated cheese, a bit of grated cheddar cheese would work really nice in here, whatever you've got. I'm going to put a bit of seasoning, a bit of salt and some pepper, and give it a good whisk with my fork. And we want it really, really well combined, and we want to create a little bit of air in our eggs. Giving them a really, really good whisk. You can use a whisk as well if you wanted to. I'm using a fork. So once your veggies have had a few minutes to soften, probably a little bit longer than these ones are, but for the sake of the video I'm going to carry on. I'm going to pop in my tinned veggies. I've got some sweet corn here. I'm going to put that in my pan. I might just reserve the rest of that for later, put it in a salad maybe. Give the sweet corn a stir. I'm going to pop my potatoes in. And I'm going to give these a little bit longer to cook. So once your potatoes have had a couple of minutes and your veggies are all starting to soften up nicely, we're just going to take this off the heat and we're going to tip our cooked vegetables into the pan with our egg and milk mixture. Make sure all of it goes in. And give it a really, really good stir so it's all coated in the egg. And now you've got two options here. You can either continue to cook in the pan, which is what I'm going to do, or you can get yourself a line and roasting tin with baking paper, tip this mixture into that tin, and you're going to cook that on 180 until it's golden and puffed up and cooked all the way through. I'm going to show you how to cook it in the pan, so I'm just going to give the pan a bit of a wipe down with a bit of kitchen roll. Pop it back over the heat. Back over a medium heat, and I'm going to put a little more oil in, or you can use butter and oil mixed together. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a swirl around the pan. And I'm going to tip my egg and veg mix back into the pan. I'm going to flatten it all out so it's nice and evenly spread across the pan. And now I'm going to cook my omelette in this pan, and it's going to take around 10 minutes. Okay, so what you're going to do as it cooks, you're going to keep an eye on it, so you'll notice that the edges might start to cook quicker than the rest of the omelette. So you can lift up the edges of the omelette, tilt the pan, let some of that liquid egg yolk run in underneath. We don't want to disturb the vegetables and egg too much. We want it to set in one piece. But we do want it to get nicely cooked, so you can help it along a little bit, move the edges like I said, help it tip into the gaps a little bit. And we're going to turn that heat to a medium-low heat, and we're just going to gently cook that for about... Hello and welcome back to the video. So I've been cooking my omelette for about 10 minutes now. I've been lifting up the edges to let any bits of liquid egg run in. And I'm happy that it's nearly set now. So if you've got a grill, you can preheat your grill, and you can finish off cooking the egg on top by popping the frying pan underneath the grill. If you don't have a grill, I'm going to show you how to finish off your omelette using a plate. So we're going to loosen around the edges with a fish slice to make sure that the omelette is not stuck. You can give the pan a shake. Check to see that it moves around freely around the pan. We're just going to turn off the heat for a sec, and I've got a nice big plate here, and I'm just going to pop that very carefully on top of my omelette. Now with one hand on the plate and one hand on the pan, I'm going to flip my omelette over onto the plate to reveal the underside, and then I'm just going to slide it back into the pan to finish cooking. Got a bit of loose veg there, I can just pop that back in. I'm going to put my heat back on. And you can see I've got a lovely golden brown colour on the top there. If you have your pan on too high, your omelette will become burnt on the bottom. So it's important to just try and be patient and keep it on a low heat when you're cooking your omelette. You're going to give it a couple more minutes on the other side just to cook through, and then your omelette's done. It makes an absolutely fantastic lunch. You can have slices of it cold the next day and have it as a sandwich filling. It keeps well in the fridge for a couple of days. Once this is cooked, you can slide it onto a plate or board and cut it into triangle wedges. It's a really good way of using up leftover pasta as well. So instead of the potato, if you've got a little bit of cooked leftover pasta, you can stir that through the egg mixture when the veggies go in and put it back in the pan. Really good way to use up leftover pasta. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Happy omelette making. And thank you very much. Enjoy.